right, so Brandon, we're just gonna talk through kind of what some of the basic expectations are to start on site here at Hill Farms. So you will be meeting eventually with a safety business partner, but this is kind of just what we expect you to get started. So I'm just gonna go through the bullets here. Basically, starting at the top, right? What's important is the culture, right? It's a kind of what, and you'll see it as you get out in the field. But safety is the most important thing we do at Ahern, and it can sound like a cliche, but it's not. It's something that we practice, and you'll see that with the guys out in the field. But we really believe that it is the most important thing, because that's what matters most to us, is you guys going home safe at the end of the day, and I think that gets echoed through the field as well. We just want to make sure that you show up ready to work, distraction free, ready to go. I'd say if there is anything on your mind, just make sure that you got to take a 5-minute phone call to get something off your mind. You got having an argument or something just with your girlfriend, or you got something on your mind at home. Make sure you can get that off your mind and have a good day at work. So just make sure you show up ready to go. We believe you guys, that everybody can make an impact through their actions, words, and decisions. So don't ever think just because you're the new guy that you can't do something that adds value here without guidance from somebody else. I mean, you got past experience. You got 5 years already. So just make sure that you're speaking up if you see something that doesn't seem right, or you got a better idea, or you got a different way of doing things. And then kind of that last thing there is just one team, one challenge, right? So we've got all the Ahern trades on this site, right? We got everybody, but sometimes I think we get siloed a little bit. Just remember that we're all working towards the same thing, right? We got one goal here: 0 injuries. We believe all injuries are preventable, so just keep that in mind, looking out for each other. So the next heading there, cardinal rules. I mean, these are kind of our unbreakables, right? These are the life-saving rules. These are the things that are most important to us, to just making sure that work gets done safely day in, day out. We're going to pre-plan every day. We're going to talk about what the tasks are in the morning, what those hazards are associated with the tasks, and how to control those. So you should sit down with your crew every morning and talk about what the work is, and then just keep that conversation going throughout the day if you see things or see anything that needs to be changed. Make sure you got your PPE on. Everything you got on looks good here. Just the basics: hard hat, gloves, glasses, vest here, good boots, things like that. Fall protection, we want to make sure that over 6 feet off the ground we're tying off. If you do need to tie off, somebody will give you a fall protection kit. Should have a harness in it, should have a shock absorbing tie back lanyard in it. We want to use that anytime, like I say, we're over 6 feet off the ground, or if we're working in a boom lift. And then the customer, I believe Gilbane does require that if you're in a scissor lift, you got to be tied off as well. Arc flash, which isn't something you should have a lot of exposure to, but just know that anybody that is working with arc flash, they need to be qualified to do that work. So shouldn't be something that you got to deal a lot with. I just say keep your distance from anybody that is doing work like that. Electrical work, live. Lockout, tag out. So making sure that we do shut the systems down if we got to work on a live system, or we got to do any tie-ins to a system. That we do shut it down, lock it out, put a tag on it. Anybody that's working on the system should have their own lock on the system. So something to remember there is just if you're going to work on a system that has that energy on it, water, pressure, steam, that you got a lock on it before you do any work on it, and the energy's been dissipated. And then the last one there, which as a tinner probably won't get into a lot of, is excavations, but confined spaces is something definitely that we can run into on any job site. So just make sure that you listen to your foreman. The foreman is a competent person on site for excavation and confined space work. So just make sure you're with one of those guys if you would have to do that. And there will be more training to come. Again, this is just kind of a things to look out for type message. So task planning and HAZ ID. Short of doing the pre-task planning, the other thing we really want you to think about is, do you understand the work that you got to do? Being new to site, even with your experience, if something's being done a way you haven't seen it done before, make sure you ask questions. Make sure that somebody is showing you how to do things. You shouldn't be expected to just have to figure something out on your own. I mean, that's not what we want you to do. We want to make sure you got the tools that you need and the knowledge that you need to do the job the right way. Also, what are the hazards that are associated with that work, and how are we going to eliminate them or control them to make sure to do the work safely? There is risk involved with the work that we're going to do, right? I mean, it's construction. There's risk, right?
Yeah.
But we can lower that risk. We can control that risk. So let's just do what we can to do that. And then we also just want to make sure you're an active participant. Like I say, you've got experience, you've got knowledge. Speak up. If you've got ideas or you've got questions, please just be heard. Kind of ties into that next thing, the stop work, right? If you do have a question when you get into work, make sure you do stop the work just to ask the question. Stop work doesn't mean we got to go home for the day. It means, hey, let's just take a pause here and ask some questions and replan if we have to, get what we need to do the job the right way and go back to work. I'm giving you the you have the authority, right? And we expect you to do that, to do stop work activity if necessary. Recognize and manage those hazards and associated with the change events. So new crew for the day, new guy for the day, somebody coming to the site, or maybe you're working with a new guy, make sure you're on the same page. If you got to do any of that if you're on a different floor and there's different access issues or openings that weren't on the other floors, just make sure that you're handling those changes before you go back to work. Mobile equipment, pretty simple there. All the equipment needs to be inspected prior to use: lifts, scissor lifts, aerial lifts, forklifts. So just make sure that the equipment's been inspected, and then make sure you've been trained or with somebody that's been trained before you would use that equipment. Material handling, pretty simple. I'm sure you've heard it before: work smarter, not harder. But your body's your most valuable tool, right?
Right.
You got a lot of years left in the trade. There's a lot of tools out there to help you, but eventually at some point you got to pick something up and carry it somewhere and put it in place or set it down, right? So just make sure that we're stretching every morning. There should be a team-led stretch, and then like I say, use mechanical advantage when you can. Kind of rule of thumb: if you got to lift over 50 pounds, find somebody to help you out. Just protect your body. The days can get long if you're lifting and carrying crap all day long. So just think about that. Emergency procedures here, knowing where the muster points are outside of the building if there is a fire, and then also knowing where to go in case of severe weather or a fire or medical emergencies. We do have first aid kits in the trailer here. All the trucks have them. The gang boxes have them. Also eye care kits in case you get something in your eye. We've got the ability to flush that out or possibly remove it if we have to. So just keep that in mind, that we do have those on our gang boxes or in the trailer as well. And then fire extinguishers, they're in the gang boxes. They're posted on site as well. And then we should have one if we're doing any type of hot work. If you do have an injury, let your supervisor know right away. It's just something we want to manage as quick as possible. So just make sure that you do let a foreman know right away if you do have an injury, or if even a near miss, something that kind of call that a real shit moment, right? So if it's something that happens, something drops right next to you, like, oh, that could have hurt me if I'd been 1 foot to the right. We want to hear about those too, because we should investigate them and learn a little bit more about them. So with that being said, we kind of got some basic safety rules here. The hazard communication, so you got the SDS sticker on the side of your hard hat, and that's just our quick access for any chemicals that we work with or chemicals you might be exposed to on site. That's a number that we can call to get the information needed to know if it's safe to be breathing it, or if you get it on your skin, do you need to wash it off, or how should you manage it. So that's just, you have the right to know the chemicals you're working with and what the hazards are that they pose. So that's our access to that. Housekeeping, just kind of clean up as you go. Keep the site clean. It's a safer site if we do that and clean up as we go. Make sure you're using the right ladder for the task. Just because a 6-foot ladder is handy, if you need an 8-foot and you got to walk down a floor to get it, get the 8-foot. Don't take a risk just because the tool's handy. Get the right ladder for the job. Make sure we're inspecting those before we use them. Same with all of our other power tools and hand tools. Just make sure that we've got the tools right for the job, that it's been inspected, and that it works right before we use it. Make sure we're using everything that's on it. Don't remove or disable any of the guards that the tool comes with. Make sure we're looking out for any and all signs, barricades, flagging. If something's flagged off yellow, make sure we're giving it a look ahead to make sure there's nothing overhead that I'm gonna, step into that could be dangerous. Before you access that area, if something's got red caution tape, we need to stay out unless it's work that we're doing and somebody's authorized you to be in there. So just kind of keep an eye out for signs. And then really, there is some site requirements here. I think there's an orientation you got to do with Gilbane and Smith before you can go on site. So just make sure that we'll get you through that before you get out on site. And then other than that, we'll get you started with your foreman and just make sure to ask questions if you got them. So,
sounds good.
Any questions?
No.
All right, man. Just have you sign off on that then, and let you get to work.